Yo, this is Art the Architect with More Than a Haircut podcast. And today on the lineup, the love of shoes, Rob Purvy. Hey man, I've been looking forward to this one, man, all week, bro. I've been looking forward to this, man.
Well, I've been looking
Introduce
forward to
yourself
coming on.
if you don't mind, man. Introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, my name is Rob Purvy. I actually live in Southern California,
Mm,
Los Angeles area, Inglewood right now. I
yo.
actually born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and just based off of my love and my passion for footwear, as my father used to say when he was still with us, I've been almost from Maine to Spain and Baghdad, Baghdad to Trinidad.
Yeah, for real. So we got a chance to meet through my homeboy Rob via Clubhouse. And we were talking about the bungee brand. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, that's that was uh that was big for me. Hearing that,
Hmm.
hearing his story, hearing the sentence, hearing that he was a barber, seeing that he came up and he improved his skill set and now he got his own shoes. So not necessarily going there, but like what initially got you involved in shoes
It was really interesting because, I
or the
was
shoe
really
industry
fortunate.
too?
Yeah, I was really fortunate because as a kid growing up, obviously you hear a lot of people talking stories about what it's like to be from Philadelphia and growing up in Philly. It's a tough city and all of that stuff. And that's true. So I'm not trying to minimize that by no extent. But I had a very creative imagination when I was growing up. So it was so many things that I really wanted to do. And I had a lot of the dreams that a lot of kids have when they're growing up.
Mhm.
Initially, I wanted to be, and I'll just go through the list in no order, but I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be a pro athlete. At one point, I wanted to be a football player. I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a fireman.
I
I
was gonna
wanted to be
ask.
an astronaut. And it was just all kinds of stuff. And I was always from a family that never like sequestered you when you had those type of ideas.
Mhm.
And to make a really long story short, as time went by, I actually was a victim of what I call the P word, which is potential.
Mm.
Everybody, you got so much potential. You're going to do this,
Everybody,
you're going to do that. But
everybody
I
say
think a lot of times when you're not mentored properly or just don't have the right person saying the right thing to you at the right time, you don't realize that you don't all of a sudden grow into having potential. You have to chase potential and you have to make it happen. So once I got out of school, I was actually kind of really waiting for this great thing I'm going to be, and it just wasn't happening. And it was really bothering me a lot. And one day my cousin came to me and said, he was working at Foot Locker. And he
okay.
said, yo, man, you might just want to think about going to Foot Locker. And me being the arrogant youngin' I was at that time, I was like, man, I ain't working in no mall. What's that, some minimum wage job? I ain't doing nothing like that, dog. He said, man, just come on down and check it out. So I go down, I interview with the store manager, which we were very fortunate because since Philadelphia is two-thirds black, it's definitely one of the blackest, if not the blackest, northern major city in our country. It was one of the few Footlockers that was an all-black Footlocker because Footlocker comes from the Midwest. It
Okay.
wasn't like that. So this guy was a black dude. He was really nice. We interviewed, and it looked like it was going better than I thought it was going to go.
Mm.
And we did the interview. I went home a couple days later. He told my cousin to tell me to come in, and he said, we want to give you a shot. So all of a sudden, boom, I'm working at a Foot Locker that's in my neighborhood.
Mm.
And because I played sports and I was out there and I was doing all kind of things, a lot of people in the community knew me. So folks was coming to the store all the time. Boom, boom, boom. All of the people that was trapping was coming to me and buying off of me. And when they would come to the store, if I wasn't there, they wouldn't even buy nothing. And when I would come to work later on, they would go, "How come people come in here and when they leave when you're not here?" I said, "No, I don't know. I knew why, but I'm like, I don't know. Whatever." Next thing you know, I'm there for about a year, and I start moving up, and they send me over to a suburban store, just
Okay.
moving around completely. And the woman who was actually the person who was my Reebok rep, because in those days, all of the brands would come by the store to see how you're doing. They would all have these regional reps. So the woman who was my regional rep, she came to say goodbye, white woman, real cool lady. And she said, I just came to say goodbye because I got a job in corporate now and I'm going in, I'm going to be working in the corporate headquarters and this will be the last time you'll see me. So I said, well, who's taking your place? She said, I don't know. I said, I think I got the aptitude to do your job. She started laughing. She said, I'll throw your name in there. I said, okay, cool. So it turns out at this point in time, and it's hard for people to believe this and remember this because Nike is so dominant and such an amazing company in terms of being the number one company. But in that era, Reebok was actually competing with Nike every day. So
this was around the time, was this like Kemp and Shaq?
no, this is way before then. I
Oh,
was at Reebok way before then. A lot of people that's Reebok people was around in that time. I was there when Reebok was being known for this amazing women's fitness company.
oh,
Reebok was
I
really
think
the
I
first
that,
company
was
to
it
make
that white?
fitness shoes.
Was it that
Yes.
white shoe? It had the red print and I think I remember because I remember my mama having them Reeboks.
Yeah, yeah, that's the ones with the double Velcro straps
Uh-huh.
at the top. It was like kind of a high top, which was called
Okay.
the freestyle. But in New York, they called them 5411s because they was 49.99, but with tax, it was $54.11. So so 5411 is what that shoe was called, and that made it into a whole lot of hip hop songs,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So you know, I'm working there at that time, and it's blowing up. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to this interview. So I go to the interview, and when I get there, it's in downtown Philadelphia. It's in this huge hotel. It was like in a Marriott or something like that. I walk in the door. I look around. You think that they in there like auditioning for a movie? It was just people. It was just dozens of people in there waiting their turn to get in the elevator to go up to do this interview. So I relaxed completely then because Reebok is a Boston company. I'm a Philadelphian. We know that Boston is known for racism and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, in my mind, I'm not getting this job. So whatever. So I go up to the interview, and because I didn't think I was going to get it, I was super relaxed, and it unintentionally it turned into me interviewing them. Because I had never met anybody from a sneaker company before. Okay. I'm like, yo, I'm a young guy then, I'm like in my mid 20s. Mm-hmm. So the dude had on this shoe, and I'll never forget it. It was called the men's instructor, because by them doing aerobic shoes and fitness shoes, they had a shoe called the instructor for women, but now they were branching over into men seriously. And I had heard about the shoe because I worked at Foot Locker, and I looked at him and I said, "You got the men's instructor one?" He said, "How do you know about that shoe?" I said, "All of the paraphernalia that comes in the store, I read it." Yeah. And I heard you guys. I said, "But on the bottom of the shoe, it says it has a collapsible traction system. What is the collapsible traction system?" Wow. He said, "Well, the reason why you didn't see a picture of it is because we hadn't even figured it out yet. So we was just showing the top of the shoe." So I said, "Can you take it off?" And he took it off, and I looked at the bottom of it. And I don't know, I'm actually getting the job when I'm looking at the bottom of his shoe. And I said, "Oh, now I see why they call it the collapsible traction system." Boom. Interview ends. Went really well. Shook his hand. He was two of them. And he said, "I'll let you know right now. If you get the job and if you don't get the job, I'm going to call you and let you know." So I walked out of there feeling as though I was really BS then. I was like, this was some BS, because I ain't never know nobody that's going to call you and tell you that you didn't get the job. We usually find out we ain't get the job when we don't never get a call. Yeah. Right?
Off the real.
So I go to work. I'm in Foot Locker. The phone rings. I pick up the phone, and this dude said, "Hello, I'm looking for Rob Purvy." So the first thing that comes to my mind is these people. I wasn't paying my student loans, dog. So I almost got off the call, right? I'm like, he said, "It's Rob Purvy." And I don't know what it was. It was divine intervention. When he said, "Can I speak to Rob Purvy?" I just said, this is Rob Purvy. And he said, "Oh, this is, the guy's name is Jim." He said, "This is Jim from Reebok. So I just wanted to call you to let you know we want to offer you the job." He said, would you take it? So inside I was going, ah, but on the outside I said, I'd consider it. I'm trying to be cool, right? He said, "The only thing is you can't really give your job a 2-week notice. We really need people really badly." This is how bad Reebok was growing at that time. He said, "You're going to have to give a notice to your company almost immediately. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a airline ticket waiting for you at the airport. And we're going to fly you up to the headquarters. You're going to go into your orientation, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with you after that." So now my boss at Foot Locker said, "Yo, Reebok is interviewing all of these Foot Locker people all over the country. Did you interview with them too?" And thinking that I wasn't going to get the job, I said, nah, why would I do that? I love working here, man. I wouldn't even interview with that. Right after I said that to him is when that call came.
Oh, man.
I had to go, right. So I had to go back in my boss's office in Foot Locker. And I said, "Man, I'm sorry. I lied to you. I did interview with them. And I actually ended up getting the job. And for some crazy reason, he was not upset. He said, 'You know what? I appreciate that. You're a good guy.' He said, 'They should have hired you. You're really good at what you do.' I was like, oh, Cool. Next thing you know, I'm basically told to be an area rep. What the term at that time was called a tech rep. I'm the tech rep for Reebok, and I have Pennsylvania over to Penn State. I got New Jersey, I got Delaware, I got, and occasionally I got New York, and that's my region. And every week I have to just travel
Just trap.
wherever I see fit, and I have to push all of the different initiatives, and I have to report back to the company how the product is doing in that region. Because
Wow.
this is back in the 80s now. So, it wasn't like now where you got the
Yeah.
digital,
And
none of that.
it's quicker. Yeah. So
Yeah. So I had to do
you
that.
got to go and record all the data,
Yeah,
report
all of that.
back.
All of that. So you got to send in a weekly report, and then you have to do a monthly report that's like really, really thoroughly crafted and put together like you putting in a real like report. So
System.
what I so what I started doing, one of my boys had like some little he on like the local TV network stuff, not
Right,
broadcast,
man.
when
Yeah.
people do. Yeah, so he had this little show that he was doing, and instead of sending in the weekly reports, I used to go on his show. I would record the show, get a VHS, and I would talk about what was going on, like I was reporting the news about the brand, and I would send that VHS tape into the company every week, and then I would do the written report on the monthly. And dude, they was like, "Yo, this dude, like, what's up with him?"
Amazing.
And that's just the way I was getting down. And the next thing you know, when we would go quarterly to Boston to the headquarters and do all of the, we do these quarterly meetings and all of those things like that. And at the end of the meetings, because we were all the young bucks that's coming up in the company, the same guy, Jim, he used to tell people what jobs are available and what do you want to go into if you want to come into the industry. That's when I started learning that it's not just you have a sneaker company and you got a designer and they draw the picture and they just send the shoes to the factory and they make the shoes. It's so many
Oh,
different
team.
jobs. It's
Yeah.
hundreds of jobs that you can have, and you have to find what your niche is.
Okay.
So when he would actually say, they looking for salesmen, they looking for marketing people, they looking for PR people, all of these different jobs. But at the end, he would go, "Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. They also was looking for, I don't know who wants to do this. This is dude talking. They looking for people that want to move over to Korea to actually work on the manufacturing side." I'm the only dude that would raise my hand. I would always raise my hand. This went on time and time again. And after a while, they came to me and said, "You keep raising your hand. You don't understand what it means to be moving over there." I said, "I don't think y'all understand it. I'm down to do it.
Yeah.
Why
Because
not?"
it's an opportunity. That's something that Rob and I always say. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, but
Because
the thing is, none of these other guys that were there,
they want home.
they didn't want to leave their home. They didn't want to move to a foreign country. This was just a job to them. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity because I'm from the hood.
Man. That like
And I said, I gotta keep saying I'm down.
and this make me think about my brother and not just my both of us. Like, okay, we're from Memphis, and
Mm-hmm.
he actually proposed to his wife at the Great Wall. You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go.
And
There
like
you go.
growing up, all we listened to was Memphis music. It wasn't until I went to college because we grew up listening to Player Fly all the time and 3 6
Mm-hmm.
Mafia. So it wasn't
Okay.
until I came back and I'm like, here go Jay-Z, here go DMX. And my brother's like, man, I don't want to hear that shit. So it wasn't it wasn't until he heard Dipset when I noticed like he grabbed a hold of something outside of the norm of what we were growing up listening to. So I know his
Mm-hmm.
mind started working through the music. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that man,
Mm-hmm.
that's wild, man. Like
Yeah, it was
that's
crazy,
almost
man.
like I
So
don't even want to ask the rest of my questions, man.
no, no, it's all good. I mean,
uh,
but that's really how it got started. And
that's like to me in itself, I'm like, where's the book at? When can I get this book?
it's funny because my middle daughter's already written 2 books, so I'm in the hole by 2 books.
Oh yeah,
And
he
yeah,
gonna
as a
run
matter
over
of
your
fact,
face
I'll push it right now. You could get it on Amazon. The book is called The Anti-Hustle.
for real.
It's called The Anti-Hustle. Yeah,
I'm happy.
and the reason why she called it The Anti-Hustle, or
Gotcha.
called the book The Anti-Hustle, is because she's been very successful in business. And every time, which is a compliment coming from us, people will say, "You really getting your hustle on right now." But they don't know her mentality is looking at the highest level you could be. She said, "No one goes up to Warren Buffett and said, 'You getting your hustle on right now.' Nobody went to Steve Jobs and said, 'You getting your hustle on right now.'"
Yeah.
So she was like, she said, "I know they're not meaning to offend me, but I'm not over here hustling. I'm studying,
Mhm.
I'm working, I'm learning my craft."
Yeah, I need that for I gotta get my that book for me, my daughter and myself. I wanna
Yeah,
I gotta do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you got to, that's really what it comes down to, because there's no such thing as a overnight sensation.
Yeah.
You may become a
Uh,
star overnight, but the work was put in.
You had to
It do happen overnight, but it ain't like they just pow like that. It was a lot of work that went into what made someone successful.
Most of the artists, they've been doing what they've been doing for 20 years before they get that break, that one good break.
Absolutely.
And they've been
Absolutely.
singing and man dancing and everything.
Oh yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So and I didn't know when all of that stuff was going on, because over the time frame when I first moved to Asia,
Mm-hmm.
I was engaged at that time, and I went over there. But
Hey! You can't take them. You can't take them to Asia yet, man. I'm trying to.
no. This is what happened. This is what
God,
happened. This is what happened
for
because
real.
when I
And this in the midst. This is in the midst of Reebok, though.
this is still Reebok. This is still Reebok. So no, what ended up happening was between when I got the job, because I got a couple of months to prepare to go.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually got the job in like October, and then I moved to Asia December 1st. But in the meantime, in between time, after I got the job and before I went over there, my girlfriend, who became my fiance, got pregnant.
Man.
So I had to deal with that,
Oh,
right?
I know that was torture.
So well, it was just a lot of serendipitous stuff that was going on, because what happened is my mom actually was so dope. She told my girlfriend that when I moved overseas, that she could move in with her.
Okay.
And I think my girlfriend at that time, she wanted to show me that she was really dedicated to the relationship, because I had to go over there, and the way the contract was set up, when you leave to go over the first time, you have to stay there for almost a year before you can come back. Because I guess prior to myself, they had people who went over there, and as soon as they got there, said they didn't like it, and they turned around and came back. And that's a lot of money back in those days to be spending to relocate somebody overseas and so forth and so on. So I had to commit to do that. And me and her made the agreement that we was definitely going to get married. But I'm over there for this whole year. So it's really, you might as well say I had a whole year of a bachelor party. Okay. Because I'm over there and I'm talking to her at least once a week, because we had a whole thing in our package where you could actually, call home. You can't, some white dude one time got on the phone and was drunk and laid on the phone by accident for like 5 hours. And they made it so that no one could talk to the US for more than 60 minutes a month. So if I do talk to you on a weekly basis, I got to talk like 10 minutes because I only got 60 minutes a month. And I had 10 minutes. Yeah, it was, dude, it was
for the
crazy.
international call.
Yeah, because in those days, the international call was an arm and two legs, right?
Arm, leg, arm, head.
Yeah. So what I did is, so it turns out that when the baby was due was when it was my time of being over there that long was okay. So I went home and, I had been there for like 11 months. I went home and I just happened to show up during the window when the baby was due. I was scheduled to be home for 4 weeks, but I only told them 3 weeks because I'm still a black dude and I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. They might change their mind and be like, you can't bring your black ass back. I don't know if they're going to do that or not.
Yeah.
So they said you could go home for 4 weeks. I said, no, I'm going to go home for 3 weeks and then I'll come back. So I went home. Fortunately, she had the baby within the 3 weeks. I turned around, I went back. And then 3 months after that, because then after I was there for a year, I could kind of had a little bit more flexibility. Yeah. And then I came back and she had a child previously before me. Okay. And me, the new baby, and my oldest daughter, I brought them back. And we was the first black family to actually live in Asia in the sneaker industry. Man, and then I got promoted and we moved to Bangkok, Thailand. And then while we was living in Bangkok, Thailand, we was actually overseeing manufacturing in Indonesia too. Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm about to throw all my.
It was crazy.
No, I don't even eat. No, I ain't gonna trip.
It was crazy, dog. So that's why when I hear people talking about they shoe heads and they sneaker heads and all that kind of stuff, I don't say nothing. But I'm like, for real, you're a collector. You're not really a head.
Yeah,
you're a collector. You're a collector.
After listening to like. Cause my thing was my cousin told me if you can draw a straight line, you can cut hair. And that made me think about when you said, and that go back to my granddad, well, they take me to when you said your cousin, like, come down to Foot Locker. And that opened up a window and an opportunity where it's like, again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. If you didn't take that, will we be sitting here today?
No, exactly. And that's how it worked. But during that whole process, because that was the kind of personal family side, but during that process, I was actually brought over there to be what they called at that time a junior or assistant production manager. And they partnered me with a person who was really, really experienced at making shoes. And a lot of these guys were older dudes that were making shoes in the US when the US was a manufacturing country. So I always get asked about racism and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That's really when I was catching a lot of, and I can't call it like hardcore racism, but just cultural differences, because these older guys who was teaching us younger guys, they were dudes that were like in the footwear industry in New York City, in the footwear industry in Missouri,
Okay.
in the footwear industry in North Carolina, so forth and so on. So you're dealing with maybe a guy who used to own a factory in Missouri, and all of the people who work at the factory is black people who are the laborers, and they're not dealing with someone who's a black person who's being trained to do the type of work that they do. So I
Wow.
had to deal with a lot of things that they were saying that if I react to it the way I would on the streets of Philadelphia, they're gonna put me back on the plane and send me home.
And you know what's crazy? You feel that in my question, like I was gonna ask you how difficult was it navigating in the shoe industry, and that that was it's like it's right on, it's right on time. Like I can only imagine having to deal with, like you're saying, you go overseas and there's cultural biases or there's cultural differences.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like you're dealing with somebody that was in New York. They used to a certain type of mind frame and mind state from a people relative to you. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, you can't, you ain't just gonna run over me like that. And that again, the comparison, that's how my grandfather was. He was like, no, when you deal with a white man, you deal with them the same way you deal with the black people. So like
Right.
there's no difference. This is a man. When you put your pants on, you put them on just like them. So I can dig it,
Yeah.
man.
So it was a challenge, and also the other thing that was educational to me was this was the first time I was ever in a situation where the white people were the minority,
Yeah.
and it's amazing when you get a chance to see them as the minority and not the majority. And
Wow.
that was very, very educational to me, and it
Okay.
it, it taught me a lot, and it showed me the strength that we have,
Uh-huh.
because we've always had to be in that position of being a minority, which I find that word almost insulting, because if you
Yeah.
look at us on the planet, we're
We're
not
not
the
we're the
minority, we're
majority.
really one of the majorities. But they've conditioned Americans in particular to call themselves a minority. So if you call yourself a minority, you think you're a minority.
And
So
thanks for covering that because I was struggling with having to say the minority and I didn't want to say it because I know that we not based on
exactly.
just studying and I'm like,
Exactly.
nah, man, this
Exactly. I tell you, one time I was in the factory, and this white dude, and I won't let this was
nah,
many,
you
many
got
years. This was many, many years ago. But this white dude did his usual white person snap. He snapped on the Koreans, just snapped on them, right? And he got up and he stormed out. So now they don't know anything about me. And then because I'm a light skinned guy, I'm really throwing them off, because the only light skinned person, black person they knew about was Lionel Richie. Okay. So, so
Lionel.
and they can't
Lionel.
say they can't say L's over there either. So they were just
Oh
going,
man, I know. I know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Lionel Richie. So I'm like, okay,
Lionel Rich.
yeah, yeah. Everything with L, Lionel Richie. I'm like, yo, okay. So so he leaves and he walks out and he just snapped on them like the way they do when they snap. And they looking at me like, well, what's next? I said, well, you got to understand that's him. I don't really roll like that. And I just, it slipped out my mouth. I said, that's kind of how like white people are. And then once I said that, it changed the whole room. And all of a sudden they started talking about white people the way black people talk about white people. I slipped out. And they was like, yeah, they do this, they do that, they do this. I was like, yo. So, and then I'm embracing the culture. I'm taking language classes.
Okay.
I'm studying a variation of Kung Fu,
Okay.
because it was I mean, for me as a kid who was I guess you would say a byproduct of the Bruce Lee culture.
Man.
This is I'm working on sneakers. In my mind I'm getting them for free, but they ain't really for free, because I'm working like
Dog.
12,
Yeah.
15, 18 hours a day, but I ain't buying them.
Mhm.
And I'm studying martial arts, and life was really good in that respect.
Yeah.
And and I think what I've learned about different cultures is food is so important and so passionate to people. I actually truly learned to love Korean food, and that made the Korean people like me, because I would eat what they eat, and they didn't have to worry about when I show up that I got to try to figure out how to make, because some of the other people was, they want to get a cheeseburger or they want to get some man, I got time to eat that when I go back to the States.
Mm.
Whatever y'all eat, I'll
That's
eat it with you. And if
yeah.
I don't like something, I'm gonna just say I don't like that, but I'm never gonna say I don't like your
Food.
food, because
Yeah.
no one likes everything in a particular cuisine.
Yeah.
So that really, really helped me a lot. And they seen how I was trying to learn their language,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew so many things about Asian culture because I grew up like watching kung fu movies.
So
It
that
came
helped.
in handy. It came in handy.
Nah.
So the next thing you know, I got promoted and I moved to Thailand, which the education there was, we as Americans have a tendency of thinking that everything in Asia is similar.
It is
Thai
different.
culture and Korean culture is about as different as Black culture and white culture. It's not even, it's
Not in
nothing about, it was nothing about being in Korea that prepared me for being in Thailand. Nothing at all. And I went down there really arrogant because Korean food is kind of spicy, and I was with my man, this Thai guy that me and him kind of linked up. He worked at the factory, but he went to school in the U.S., so his English was like perfect. And he said, he said, you got to be careful on our food. Our food is really, really spicy. I'm like, man, I ain't got to worry about that. I can eat whatever. So we go to this factory out in the woods somewhere, and he said, well, you got to try this thing. It's called jungle curry. I said, jungle curry. He said, it's kind of spicy. I said, man, just bring that out. Man, I took one taste of this jungle curry, right? And I started sweating on the inside of my head,
man.
right?
Uh,
But they gave me a big bowl, dog, a big bowl.
I
So,
love.
and it's rude not to finish your food. I'm
Uh,
looking at this big giant bowl and I'm not knowing how I'm going to get through this, right? Because I mean, on about the third teaspoon, I'm done. I mean, I am done. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he looked at me and he started laughing. He said, you know what? You don't have to finish eating that. I said, yeah, but you gave me a whole bowl. He said, you don't have to finish eating that because it ain't no such thing as jungle curry. I went in the kitchen and told them to fuck you up.
oh.
So,
Hey, let's go.
yeah, but that's how I learned, man. Humility is important, man. You can't be rolling around thinking you know something when you don't. It was funny, and he's still a really, really good friend of mine to this day.
That's love.
So
That's love.
yeah,
That's what's
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah,
So I got, I
yeah.
got,
So
I got something else for you.
what's that?
Is it Adidas or is it Adidas? Right. That's the first
Oh,
part. Hold
yeah,
on. That's the
yeah,
first part.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what does the brand mean to you? And can you share some history about the brand?
The brand for me, that brand is probably as meaningful to me as Nike is to most people.
Mm.
And I've been in the game for so long. I actually remember when Nike first came along because of the big brands. Nike is pretty much, aside from Under Armour, Nike is the youngest one of the big brands. Nike was established in 1972, and it was actually called Blue Ribbon Sports. That was the original name of the company.
Blue Ribbon Sports.
And
Wow.
yeah, that was the original name. Blue Ribbon Sports became Nike,
Wow.
and Adidas is named after a guy who his full name was Adolf Dassler. And don't get afraid of the name Adolf because
Oh no, no, no.
prior to, that was a common name in that part of the world back in that time. So the nickname for Adolf was Adi. So that's where Adi came from. And
Wow.
his last name was Dassler, Dassler. So Adi Das is what it is. So pretty much mostly only Americans say Adidas, which is acceptable because in America that's what it's called. But
Yeah.
the rest of the world and the real pronunciation of the brand is Adidas. And he was a phenomenal shoemaker. That was a sports shoemaker. And he was very fortunate, if you look back in retrospect, that he actually made the cleats that Jesse Owens was wearing when he actually had to compete in the 1936 Olympics with Hitler sitting right there looking at him. So, when people talk about pressure and clutch and all of this stuff, I can't think of a sports situation that's more clutch than Jesse Owens. And a lot of people don't know that, Hitler and them, they were so technically advanced in that era. That was the first Olympics that was televised because they were pioneering thinking about broadcasting sports on TV.
Dean.
And the other thing that he did is because he was already showing up to be this horrible monster that he was, a lot of the top athletes in Germany had actually moved away from Germany because they wanted to get away from what he was about. But what he did for those Olympics, he went and found the families of those people and told those athletes, if you don't come back to Germany and represent Germany, I'm going to kill your family.
Mm.
So now Jesse Owens was caught up in the whole midst of that because he had to deal with the fact that he was a black dude from America and all the racist stuff that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
But when he showed up over there, one of the Germans was looking at how inferior the shoes were that the Americans had, because Adolf Dassler and them, they ain't no joke. They went to him and said, we don't want you to have an excuse when you lose, so you should wear these. So we don't want you, because that's how much they was thinking they was going to kick his butt. Because the word about black athletes is that we ain't good and we scrubs and all of this kind of dumb stuff.
Whatever.
And then when they realized he was that good, they changed the timing of his events so that he didn't have enough time to actually recoup. But that meant nothing at all, because he just beat everybody's. He beat everybody's ass. He didn't just win; he was beating asses. So when I think about that, that's who I think of when it comes to clutch. Then on top of that, there's a person that you and we share this person a lot in terms of who we know, but most people don't know, because Adidas wasn't really focused on marketing, because they're a German company and they don't even know how to really market at that time. Particularly, they wasn't really thinking about it. The sneaker industry wasn't something like what it is right now. But Muhammad Ali beat everybody up in Adidas. And he's the GOAT because he's the one that made up the term. I'm the greatest of all time. He's the one that said that. So I find that really humorous, because we use that GOAT term for other sports. We don't even use it in boxing at all.
They use it in rap now.
and they use it in everything now. You know, somebody, like, you know, whatever it is, people like, yo,
you ain't even a kid. How you the GOAT? Well,
yeah, exactly. It's all kind of, I'm the GOAT of frying chicken. You know, people be saying all kinds of GOAT terms now, right? So you know, so between that, and then thirdly, there's a guy in the NBA. He's retired for a lot of years now. We all know who he is. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he's still sitting there with 38,000. And they shoot 30 or 40 threes a game in the NBA today. And it looks like his, you know, obviously his record is eventually going to be broken, but he came into the NBA about 10 years before the three-point shot was in the NBA. And then the other 10 years he was in the league, because he played for 20, the centers wasn't even thought of shooting threes. So he never shot any threes. So he was so efficient and so great, because he wasn't shooting a lot of shots. He just never used to miss. So he shot 55% from the floor his whole career, and he ended up with 38,000 points. And he's still sitting there. I mean, it's going to get broken, because it looks like, you know, LeBron is amazing, and it looks like LeBron is going to break this record. But still, look what it took. Look what it takes. And LeBron is getting close to 20 years his own self.
For real. He still, it's like, man, to see him, it's amazing. Yeah. See his body recovery just every year.
Oh, he's the guy. He's that's why we have a term in my company that we use. We do use the word GOAT, but it's spelled differently, and we spell it GOHT, greatest of his or her time.
Yeah.
Because it's unfair to the people from the past, and it's unfair of the people today to try to say somebody, because rules change so much.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, and I'll use golf as an example. If you go all the way back to the day, way back when Bobby Jones and them was out playing golf, they had like wooden, they were made out of wood.
Yeah.
So look at the materials and the technology they got today. And the same with all of the sports. It's so different now, because, you know, I remember when I was a youngin', occasionally I would get on the plane to fly somewhere, and the NBA team used to be on the plane because they didn't have their own planes back in the day.
You know where I heard that? I just heard that on an interview with Mark Cuban, when he was saying,
yeah.
Some of the players was just like, man, Mark, we in Oakland at 3 a.m. looking for food. Like, what they look like? We on the plane, we can't. So they, I think they were staying at like Holiday Inn or something. So that was,
it was different. And, you know, and we know so much. I remember when I was a kid growing up, some fried chicken, some macaroni and cheese, some collard greens, and some cornbread. That was the pre-game grub.
Man, that sounds good.
It do sound good, and it tastes good. But you know, you can only imagine that's not what people eat today when they're actually trying to be. That's one of the reasons why LeBron has been able to stay around for so long. And another reason why I give Kareem so much credit, because he played for 20 years back in those days. So he knew things about diet and training and flexibility and martial arts. And, you know, because that was one of Bruce Lee's top students was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So, I mean, you know, so it's just different. So I actually look at the different time frames and respect them for what they were. And I look at the best of each era, and I try to make sure I bring those things with me, because I don't want to change with the times. I want to change the times. Big difference.
Say that one more time. I like that.
I don't want to change with the times. I want to change the times.
Okay. I like that.
You don't want to wait till somebody tell you got to change.
That's got to be a slogan. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get in front of that. You know, I look at old school groups like the Isley Brothers, man. They most people don't know their first big hit was that song "You Make Me Want to Shout." That was the Isley Brothers, and that song came out in like 1958. And look at all of the transitions that they made over the years, and they're one of the very few groups that they actually joined Motown, had hits for Motown, left Motown, started their own label, and went to the next level. So I look at people like that. I look at Quincy Jones. I'm like, Quincy Jones, he's older because he's a man.
Yeah.
But did he ever get old in music? He never got old.
Nah,
He used to be the orchestra conductor for Frank Sinatra, bro. And he did Thriller too. Come on, man.
I'm saying, like, you changing the times, man.
Yeah, there you go. And you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're stuck in this discipline or this box of where they tell you that you're supposed to be. I have the basketball conversations a lot because that's what we're about and that's what we love. But I make running shoes, I make cleats, whatever. It ain't just that. But the basketball conversation is the sexy conversation because the other sports don't have the sexiness that basketball has.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I got a different question for you on the shoes.
Okay.
You know, I gotta pop my collar right quick at it. So you know, I'm a barber, and I know the beauticians will feel me on this one too.
Yeah.
You need a brand ambassador, or can I get some shoes? Where our shoes at? Do they design shoes for us, or they want to just leave us out?
No, you know what? I'm gonna give you an example of something that why this was not. This is why this is a great idea. You know, they got all of these video game guys, ladies and guys that are like professional athletes now. They're gamers.
Yeah.
They starting to make shoes for gamers now. So if they're making shoes for gamers, yeah, they starting to make shoes for gamers and they treating them like they're athletes, then I don't see why. Yeah, of course, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Where the art of architect shoe? I need a shoe, baby.
So it makes sense, man. It makes sense. And when you look at, like, to me, if you look at it on a national level, the barbershop for me has always been the country club for our community. You know, you go to certain barbershops, I mean, you know that's where you're going to find out something, or where somebody comes in there to sell their stuff that they got. I mean, I remember when I was coming up in Philly, man, you know, dudes was coming in the barbershop selling all kinds of stuff.
Everything.
Yeah, of course. So why would you not?
You got soap.
Of course.
You got, man.
Yeah.
It really is, man. And I, you know, like, that's one place that I appreciate. And I use it as, I call it my trap, because when I say it's more than a haircut, it only came from me screwing up back in the day and having to sit down and listen to my uncles. Mm-hmm. And they were giving me so much game, my uncles, my pops. And it was just like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I didn't know the wisdom that they were parting on me was going to come in this format, in this form, where I'm like, it's a lot of young dudes that sit in my chair, or people in general that sit in my chair. And if I say, oh, have you heard about the stock market? Have you heard about cryptocurrency? Matter of fact, have you heard of the Love of Shoes with Rob Purvy? You know what I'm saying? Like, have you heard that pod? So it's just like me being able to sit here and conversate and give them something other than just a haircut. Like, some people may just cut, but they might not have the depths as I have. But I'm like, I'm fine with it. I just want to be a witness of not only my greatness, but their greatness too, because they might be going through something. And when they leave out, they're like, man, I feel totally different off of just the experience alone. Just
absolutely. Absolutely. No, we're on the same page with that, man. I mean, you know, that's something that we need to do for each other. But seriously, I could easily see, you know, a situation where barbers unify across the country and actually tie into, you know, some accessories and some gear and some footwear that they could do too. Why not?
Yeah, because it's I mean, for me, it's big with the comfort. It can be something like a sneaker as well as a dress shoe, you know, that's of comfort. Because
we have a word, and I can use this word because we locked these. You know, we locked in GOHT, so we own.
I like that.
But the other word is cashletic.
Cashletic.
Yeah, because a lot of people will say, you know, I want a shoe that I want it to be a lifestyle shoe. I want it to be athleisure. And those are old corporate words. And one day I was just doing a presentation and it just flowed out while I was presenting. And this was with a brand. It's another brand you should check out called TCG. I'm a part of this brand. And TCG stands for Thoroughly Crafted Goods. And the website is TCG Footwear. I'm sorry, TCGLosAngeles.com.
I'm over here looking it up right
And
now.
yeah, so TCGLosAngeles.com. Check it out. And it's Black owned. And it's me and two of my business partners. And we actually started that brand in like 2018. I got a really funny story to tell you about the brand too.
Okay.
And when I was presenting, the shoes are kind of similar to some of the brands that you see out there right now, but we took it to a next level where we was focused on making sure that you can use these shoes to go to a job interview. You can use them to get married in. You can wear them with a pair of shorts. You can, it's a athletic shoe. It's a casual athletic shoe. So we wanted to make sure that you look like you was representing yourself as tight as you want to, but at the same time, it feels like a pair of sneakers too.
Wow. Yeah, this my type of shoe. I like this brown, the Porter Brown Earth.
Oh,
Man.
oh, you done already went and looked, right?
I'm over on my other phone like,
Oh, yeah.
hey.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So check out TCG, and very similar to the type of work that we do with Bungie as well. And I'm really trying hard to make it so that these different brands that we work with, that we're not competing with each other. We're competing together with the other, because we need to have each other's back. And a lot of times we don't have each other's back. And we don't have each other's back.
And that sound like the consulting and consulting work I've been doing and brand ambassador work with a few different brands, where it's just like I tell the young dudes, I'm like, I'm only looking to help you bring the culture out of what you have. I'm not looking to really take anything away from what you present.
Oh yeah.
If you have a culture and I see it, I just want to attach some things to it to make it stand out. And it, you know what I'm saying, it go across the board.
Yeah, of course. Because you want to win that championship, man. I mean, I grew up playing team sports, so I really get a tremendous, it's a high if I accomplish something with a team.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what it's about.
That's
don't be.
I feel that after playing the sports, that's one thing I feel that, like, the team relationship is just like, man, I'm doing music, the group it ain't working, the relation. I'm like, God, when is this? But again, like working with Robert Noel, that been knowing him for over 20 years. So it's like those connections that I made in college are starting to click and link and starting to really germinate now and grow. So
that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. So yeah, man, it's really interesting how that works. But a lot of that was the work of being at Reebok, leaving and going to Adidas. Leaving them after I left Adidas, I was actually part of the very first e-commerce sportswear brand ever. And we were so far ahead of the time, it didn't work because people wasn't prepared and ready to use their credit cards to buy things online. We actually started this brand, me and really close friends still, but some of my other business partners, we had this vision of starting a brand that you would literally go online. And it's going to sound normal, but we actually pioneered this. You go online, you see the product, you order it, and it's delivered to your house. Now, I think one of the things that was probably bad karma for us, because the athletes that we had when we started this brand was Shaquille O'Neal, Mike Piazza, Rebecca Lobo, and Oscar De La Hoya. Now, all of those people I just named were in their championship mode at this time, because the brand was actually ideated. It started some ideation in my spare time in 1998. It kind of got momentum in like 1999, and it was actually launched in 2000 when the dunk contest was in Oakland, when Vince Carter won the dunk contest. That day he won the dunk contest is when we launched the brand.
For real? You know what I was me and my homeboys in college, like, when that man put his arm in,
yeah, for sure. Man, for sure.
I remember that. Like,
and we was really excited because if you ever see the highlight, the clips that they show of when he won the dunk contest, Shaq. they always show Shaq. You remember that, right?
I'm gonna show you a video.
But when if you look at that again, Shaq has a Scully on, and the Scully says the name of our company on it, which was called Dunk dunk.net.
Wow.
So every time I see that clip, I think about the dunk.net days. And, you know, and Shaq was represented and he won the championship because, you know, that's when the Lakers started winning championships. So he was wearing the shoes that we made from dunk.net when he won the championship.
When he had the phone and stuff too.
This was during that era. Because
Okay.
by the time the phone thing came along, we had already started moving on to do some other things because
Okay.
it the brand actually became like a case study in the tech space because we were the first to do it. And it was funny because it was like a Cold War. It was another company that was trying to do it. And the person who was doing it on the other company, I knew him because we both used to work at Adidas. And just through sheer coincidence, he left Adidas to start that. And I left Adidas to start that. And we literally got our products out there. I think we beat him. I think we beat him by like 1 week.
What?
So every time I would see him, I would be like, yo, you know, we beat you. And he would say, yeah, but we lasted longer. Because their brand lasted longer than ours. And he's still my guy to this day, you know. And
love, man.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, eventually, you know, I think that we didn't really look at some of the very important details because we saw that this was the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we were right because it is the future. Because the future is actually
way
now.
ahead of time.
It was we were too far ahead of time. And, you know, but it was cool. And I'm glad. I don't regret any of that at all. It was a great learning.
Yeah, I think it was the experience.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So, you know, eventually I was still married in those days. Yeah. And eventually, you know, I was trying all these other entrepreneurial ideas. And my ex-wife was like, dude, like, you know, when you going, this is cool. You proved something, but when you going to like get a job? So I kind of returned to corporate for a very brief period. It was only like 6 months. I actually came back into, and I had kids and everything, so you had to pay bills and all of that. Yeah. So I came back into corporate working at Skechers. And I was there for such a brief period, it's not even on my resume at all.
You can't even remember it.
I do. I remember it really, really well. And I actually learned some things there too, because, you know, their reputation in the urban community is not as strong as people as it should be. Yeah. But they know how to make money. And they make money. Yeah.
I can believe it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I learned some things, but I only was there for 6 months because the culture wasn't for me. Yeah. What their goals were not for me. But I respected them a lot. They treated me okay while I was there. Yeah. And some of my friends because when Nike finally won the war against Reebok, because Reebok is really the only company that literally gave Nike a hard time. And all of the Reebok people ended up becoming almost like insurgents all over the industry. So a whole bunch of my colleagues from Reebok actually was working at Vans. And I went to Vans. And at Vans, I was part of that whole movement when it went away from just white dudes that are Southern California skaters to just becoming what Vans is today. Yeah. So I learned even more when I was there.
My daughter loved Vans, man.
Nah, I know and I was really fortunate to be part of the team that created that movement of it being outside of just being a skateboard brand. So, you know, in terms of when I'm giving advice to people and helping them with branding and things of that nature, a lot of what I learned was when I was at Vans. Because when I got to Vans, they were just coming out of a struggle, and a multi-year struggle, as a matter of fact. Okay. And it just everything just lined up. And we had a phenomenal leader. The dude who was the president of the company at this time is one of the best strategists I've ever met in my life. I was reuniting with a lot of my friends from Reebok, so it was really good to get back together because I left Reebok in '97 and I joined Vans in '04. Okay. So, you know, and again, I always tell people the thing that's really important in whatever industry you get in, please network and please treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And when you don't work with people anymore, don't stop communicating with them because if they truly, truly was a friend, you want to still talk to them whether you work there or not. And you'll find out who your friends are and aren't when you leave and go someplace else because they won't be in communication with you anymore.
No, that's real. I mean, it made me think about when I left Memphis. It's a cat I call. He goes by Don Doozle. To this day, he'll call. We'll talk like we were still working at Kroger's. To this day,
there you go.
Doing security. So
you have to.
I got 4 names, 4 legends. And I want to know some. You already talked about one of them.
Okay.
Iverson,
Yeah.
Penny,
Okay.
Kobe, and the Diesel got to be last.
Okay. Well,
What can
because
you tell me in like?
yeah. Well, you mentioned we talked about Memphis a little bit, so I want to talk about Penny first.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's my
I want
boy.
to talk. I
Them
want to. I want
phone
to talk about
posits,
Penny first.
them phone
So,
posits. Oh my
I'm
god.
yeah, and that was amazing. That was amazing. But my relationship with him is actually because of Shaq.
Oh,
And yeah, how I first got to know Penny was I was really fortunate. We're going to harken back to the Reebok days for a second. When I when I was at Reebok and I came back to the U.S., I moved into product development because when I lived in Asia, I was a production manager. So I was overseeing making sure it was made the way it was intended to be made.
okay.
So there was no real creativity in that, but I was learning
How?
the the basics of building shoes and understanding logistics and all of those type of things.
Okay.
But when I got back to the States, I had told them I was interested in moving into product development. And product development is the lost part that sneakerheads don't understand because the product developer is analogous to the person who's the contractor when you build a building. The architect, which is the designer pretty much, the architect is the superstar and always will be the superstar. But having the blueprints and drawing it has nothing to do with what the contractor does. If an architect builds a building and when you go to mix the cement doesn't work, it's the contractor's fault, not the architect.
It's the contract.
If you turn the lights on and the lights don't come on, it's not the architect's fault, it's the electrician's fault.
Mm-hmm.
The product developer is the contractor, is the electrician.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with that part of the process. And I told them I want to move into product development, but I really meant being a product developer on the Asia side and just moving away. But they just flipped that and said, we need people to go back to the US because we're talent heavy in Asia now, but we're not talent heavy back home.
Yeah.
So I moved into product development, and the product developer is who works with when the designer finishes the design, they give it to the product developer. The product developer has to make sure that the materials are right, the type of material, the color of them, everything about the shoe is what the product developer does. So I really fell in love with being a product developer, and the product developer has to actually go back to Asia on occasion because you're the product developer. And since I was living in the States now, I still like being in Asia because I really do like going to the Far East. But the thing that was different, and I give Reebok credit for this, because they were a northeastern company that didn't necessarily have a lot of diversity in it, they started coming to me when it was time to meet with some of the athletes that were black, and they would ask me, "Do I want to be in the meeting too?"
Mm-hmm.
And as a product developer, product developers don't get a chance to go to those meetings, but
Oh, for real?
Reebok was like, "Do you want to go?" I'm like, "Okay." So occasionally I would actually go back to them and I said, I talked to Shaq. Shaq wants me to come down to Orlando to work with him because he was on the Magic at the time. And
Yeah.
that's how I ended up actually meeting Penny because they
Oh,
were down there then.
yeah.
So we was always cool with each other,
Yeah.
and obviously he was with, the
Like,
enemy brand because it's Nike and all of that. But we, as far as us being black folks, that shit don't mean nothing.
oh, it's my yeah.
It's whatever.
I'm happy for you. Yeah.
And so as the years went by, you fast forward to today. Last year, I was actually in Memphis with my business partner with TCG, and we visited with Penny, and we actually went and watched him, at a practice because he's the head coach of Memphis University now, which used to be Memphis State, and all of that. So so it's never been anything in terms of me doing hard work with him, but
Yeah.
we've always been cool with each other. And I think that over the next year or so, or sometime in the near future, you know, we probably will end up doing some things together because he's a great guy, and he was one of my favorite players when he was in the league
Man,
back in the day,
look,
man. So
growing up as a
um,
kid in Memphis, he
yeah,
was Al Jordan. He was the only player that ever got a chance to have Michael Jordan wear his shoes, man.
and not only
Yeah.
that, he was to me. I always looked at him like he was basically he
Magic.
was Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson rolled into one guy.
Yup.
Rolled into one guy, man. He was something else,
Addition
man.
squad, man.
Yeah,
I
he was
just,
he
I
was
just
he
say
was the
kid,
dude.
man.
And then obviously he was in Blue Chips,
Yup.
and I was working with Shaq during that time.
All the time.
So
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So I always was around him. So,
Yeah.
so I seen him, we visited him last year. We went down there. We talked about a lot of really good things, but obviously COVID came in, so that's kind of slowing things down a bit. But I can't talk about the things yet because it's
No,
not
no,
real.
no.
But it's we'll see we'll see what happens. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity if it presents itself. And then as far as Iverson, I have to bring another person's name up because this other person was really instrumental in me leaving Reebok. So we talk about Iverson, we also got to talk about Kobe.
Mm.
So,
COVID man.
so yeah. So with Iverson, I at the point when he came to Reebok, I already had actually kind of started moving up the ladder a bit in terms of titles and all of that.
Yeah.
So I was kind of a director in product development at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And and one day I was actually walking down the hall, and this is a story that's my story because I hear a lot of different stories about Iverson and the people who were there and what they did. And, a lot of times when people tell stories, they say, I.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm about because there's no one individual that makes anything work.
Yeah.
But the guy who was the head of marketing, I saw him in the hall.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys used to just come and talk to me because, again, I was really one of the very few minorities that were there that people really looked at his opinion should count because the few other people that were there, they didn't live in Asia. They don't have the background that I have.
Gotcha.
And I love to play. And when you work at all of the big major athletic companies,
Mm-hmm.
all of them have all of the facilities. We play basketball or whatever sport you like every day. So we had a very corporate competition with each other because we hooping against each other all the time. And also we had a business competition because, the basketball category wants to do better than running and running wants to do better than cross training and so forth and so on. So everything was about competition.
Yeah.
So the dude see me in the hall and he said, we're deadlocked in terms of which guy we should go after. It was another guy coming in the league. I won't name him, but he's a really famous dude. And it was like, dude, should we go after Iverson or should we go after that other guy? And I said, and they deadlocked. They don't know which one. I said, I'm just going to tell you my opinion. It looks like Iverson is going to be their first pick. I think that first pick is going to be Philadelphia. I think he would work in Philadelphia. The other guy is really, really good. If you go after the other guy, you're not going to make a mistake because he's going to be a good guy too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Iverson would really work because just Virginia is not really that far from Philly. And I just feel it. And Reebok is already Reebok always was like a very popular brand in Philadelphia. Okay. And I think a lot of that really stemmed from when I was basically the tech rep and I was really focusing on the urban community. Okay. And folks was loving that.
Yeah.
And
Reebok is big in Memphis too, and New Orleans.
Yeah. Well, I know. I know.
Yeah.
I know. So I was like, yo, I would go there. So I don't know how much of an influence I had on that happening, but they ended up going there. And the story about how his whole shoe came along was a really crazy story because Reebok signed him in like the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Now, in that era, and still to this day, sometimes it takes this, the time frame from when you actually ideate a signature shoe and when it's actually on the consumer's feet is sometimes 12 to 18 to 24 months. That's how long the process takes. But the thing is, it was a clause in the contract that if he didn't have a signature shoe by the time the season started, then the deal is off. Because he was supposed to go with Nike because John Thompson is on the board of directors at Nike. And he was wearing Jordan 11s when he was in college.
Yep.
So it looked like it was going to be a smooth transition. But some things happened and we ended up getting this opportunity, right? So I was asked because one of the jobs that I had morphed into was being able to get things done really quickly because I have all of that Asia connection and experiences and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So we created this group called CFD, which was the Custom Footwear Division. Mm-hmm. It was a made up word that we just made up because me and the other guy that had to do it, we was frustrated because we didn't want to be in this situation because it's where you got to be on this hurry up offense all the time. And CFD really came from me and my man Mike, this dude named Mike. I still love Mike. We like brothers. And I was basically, I said, man, they gave us this crazy job. And I think we some cool fucking dudes. And I just said cool fucking dudes. That's all. And he said, wait. He said, wait. He said, custom footwear department. And I said, no. How about custom footwear division?
Wow.
And he said, word, let's do that. It was only 2 of us. But within 1 year, it ended up being about 20 people that worked in the CFD group, because we ended up doing about 20% of all of Reebok's business, because everybody, when they have a problem, we're like that red phone. You pick up the phone, you call us.
Yeah.
Right. And we disappear for a couple weeks or so, boom, boom, boom. And we come back in 18 months worth of work. We do that in about 4 or 5 months. Okay. So that's what happened with Iverson Shoe. Now, at this time, I didn't, everybody says they did this and that. I didn't have anything to do at all, but I was the person who put the team together. Because at this point, I'm a director. I got to run more things than just focus on this one shoe. But they came to me and asked me, do you accept the assignment? Like some Mission Impossible stuff. I said, yeah. So the dude that I put on it, he killed it. He killed it so much that he's still at Reebok today and he's a vice president.
Wow.
And then there was other people that was really, really instrumental in making that happen. And I'm not taking away from them, but that's the real story of how it went down. Now, in the meantime, in between time, I'm actually being called to leave Reebok and go to Adidas, because it's looking like Adidas is getting ready to have a crazy run. And this kid, Kobe Bryant, he means a lot to me, because his father was my hero on the streets of Philadelphia, because his father was the best player in the city when he was in elementary school, middle school, high school, and college, because he went to college in our city as well. And he ended up being the backup to Dr. J. So if you're a little kid and you love Dr. J, you ain't expecting this dude to he ain't getting clock over, but he plays with Doc.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And that's Kobe's dad.
Mm.
So when I seen him, it was an opportunity. I said, I had to go home and had to sleep on it, because I really was being recruited by Adidas for about a year. And I was turning it down because I was happy with what I was doing. I was happy where I was at.
Yeah.
But this opportunity to work with Kobe, come on, man. Because I didn't know he was going to become who he became. But I knew he was going to be really, really special, because we was hearing about him and seeing him from time to time. Because when he was a little kid, they were living in Italy. And Dad used to come back in the summer and used to go in our pro-am leagues, and he used to just be, woo. The Pop was the truth.
Yeah.
Pop was the truth. He was just ahead of his time, because he was 6'9" with ball handling skills. And back in the 70s, if you 6'9", they don't expect you to be dribbling the ball.
Oh, yeah.
No, you don't do that. You see,
it was Magic.
And well, he was before Magic, and that's why Magic doesn't get his credit, because Magic is the one that was the first oversized dude that was dribbling the ball.
Yeah.
But he was before Magic. He came in the league in 75, and Magic came in the league in 79. So he was way ahead of his time. And that's why they packed up their bags and they went to Italy, and he was a superstar in Italy for like almost 10 years. Dang. And so that's how I ended up going to, and I was really excited because, Adidas was my passion brand when I was a kid growing up. Those 3 stripes meant a lot.
I actually got those Kobe's. That first pair he had, that white with the number 8 on the
Yeah. So and then again, being an African American Black person, I had to. It was rough going to working at Adidas. It was definitely rough. I had to overcome a lot of things at Reebok, which eventually I did. And a lot of what I overcame at Reebok was when I changed my attitude, because I was basically being defensive based off of the obvious racism that was in my face. And a lot of my white friends, who I never exposed that to, they had no idea that I was going through a lot of the things I was going through. Because as a Black person, we have good spidey sense to be able to, we can pick up pretty easily who's cool and who's not. Yeah. So the ones that was cool with me, I never would complain about racism to them. I knew I'm thinking about y'all don't want to hear my shit.
Yeah.
But as the years have gone by, and now that we're living in the era we're living in now, believe it or not, there's literally been people that's been calling me saying, yo, you never seem to have any of those problems. Did you have those problems when we were working at Reebok? Hell yeah, I did.
All the time.
Yeah, you just didn't know, because you was cool. Me and you ain't got to justify nothing to me. I already know you ain't racist. Yeah. We still you calling me today. You got my 2000, you got my 2020 phone number. So
yo, this is Art the Architect with More Than a Haircut podcast. Tune in every Friday for new content. Definitely on Anchor as well as YouTube. and on IG. Hit your boy up. It's more than a haircut.